future. Man, machine, the future. It's the Review a New podcast. Today we're tripling up. We got your boy DJ over here. You got your man Evan over there, and you got Butcher's Will on the phone on the other in another state. You know what I'm saying? Joining us for the triple up as we take on this the third in the trilogy, and just needing a sort of a three heads are better than two moment, because holy shit! After the second one, I was just like, can we? We just need some help. We just need some more computing power for this shit.
I'm not sure if this is gonna make more sense, but at least we're not alone.
Yeah, just be like, there's a third part. We can at least do a 2 against 1 vote for what reality we're seeing or something like that. You know.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, so we got the whole crew in today to review the third Matrix movie, Matrix Revolutions, by the Wachowskis. And thank you so much for your request, Dr. Goatman. And if you would like to make a request for a movie live stream or a song for me to review, or get priority queuing for those requests, you know what I'm saying, where your joint can come up next, head on over to Ko-fi.com/rapcritic. Get with it, act like you want it. You know what I'm saying? Don't let Dr. Goatman and Arthur B have all the fun, you know what I'm saying? But yeah. Let's get into it, yeah. Fucking the third Matrix movie.
Why, yes.
Gentlemen, how are we feeling?
I mean, so this is, I think, actually the first time I've seen the full movie start to finish. Somehow, in all this time of being someone that I would say is somewhat of a Matrix fan, I don't know how I saw it in sparse chunks. I kept seeing the ending, but not having the full context for one reason or another. So it took me the better part of 20 years to actually see I don't know. I liked it quite a bit.
It's a very big movie.
I liked it quite a bit. Going back through the narrative of the first two, I can maybe see how some may see it as a little disconnected, but in a vacuum, I think there's a lot of things that work for it.
That's interesting. So I didn't hate it. If you want to hear me hating something, there's copious examples of that. I definitely didn't hate it, but I had trouble with it in a similar way that I had trouble with the last one with The Matrix Reloaded, which is that I watched this in 2 half-hour chunks, and then I made myself sit down and watch the last hour, but I really had trouble with it, and I didn't hate it. It wasn't like making me angry. I wasn't sitting there going, it's so stupid. But it had trouble holding my attention, and I think a lot of it was that, first of all, there are so many characters. And the characters, they're not all super differentiated, although let me get this out front. Bane, that guy, does a freaking killer.
Yeah.
Like, his Agent Smith is so good. It's so good that when Neo's like, "Who are you?" It's like, dude.
It's like, come on, Neo.
First of all, who else calls you Mr. Anderson?
That really isn't the one. Like,
he's talking just like Hugo. I think that was a note I made. I'm like, man, this is a pretty good impersonation. I don't know how they're not picking up on the speech patterns.
If someone started talking like, what if I did kill those people? If I did, I guess that would make me, okay, shoot him in the head. Shoot that guy in the head. Like, come on.
Get him out of here. Eject him from the Nebuchadnezzar. Like, throw him to the machines. Like,
right? You are ejected from Fun World. Like, fucking hell. Oh, but just to give my thoughts real quick on it, like, I feel exactly the same as you gentlemen do, where it's like, I want to like this for the good that it does, but then there'll just be this other half, and then it's like I was finding myself feeling that way about the last movie too, where I was just like, I want to like this at some parts, but then it, like, the narrative doesn't feel like it all the way delivers with what it's supposed to do, but like the action feels like it's good at some parts, but then it feels like it's just chunky and like bulky and just like needs the fat trimmed in other parts. So it was like I found myself just the exact same feeling of like, I want to like this for the brilliance that I do see peeking through, but then where I see them not paying it off because of either limitations of time or limitations of budget or what have you, or limitations of creativity or imagination, especially as we get nearer to the end. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it was just kind of like, what? like I'm rooting for this movie. It's infuriating. Like I actually feel myself rooting for this movie, especially as it starts. I remember like I watched this movie with my friends in high school and college. This is one of those movies for us where it's like, oh yeah, of course we're watching it to like these are the cultural touchstones of our day. Art school students, but like we still got our foot in, you know what I'm saying, the zeitgeist of the culture.
Yeah,
this is
just
like the
like
artistic
Clerks.
stuff of the time. Yeah, oh, precisely. But like so, I remember watching these movies and having that feeling of like, yeah, when I watched it as a like super younger, when I was 12, 13, I remember being frustrated by it. And then watching it with my friends, I remember being like, I feel like I'm supposed to like this because now this is like legacy. It's been out for a long time, but like, I just can't bring myself to it. I find myself clowning on, like, when we get to the fucking baby face machine, I'm like, what was going on here? Where were we creatively with this?
Yeah.
But the baby face has a deep voice.
I think I'm gonna be the most positive.
You sound like
on
definitely a lot warmer on it than either of us was. And that's, like I said, like for me, I didn't like hate this. It wasn't making me mad, although there are a few specific things that I had issue with, but it's more like, so to me, the first Matrix movie, when we did the episode on that, we talked about the very obvious like trans parallels and stuff. And it feels very personal. It's a very personal story about figuring out who you are. And there's like action sequences and there's all the sci-fi lore and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about Neo figuring out who he is and sort of discovering himself. And the second and the third movies feel a lot more like the Wachowskis were kind of like, we've got all these ideas. Let's explore all these really, really big ideas.
Yeah.
And it felt, if they both feel less personal. And also, I think the thing that got on my nerves the most was the programs, and this gets way more pronounced in the third movie. Okay.
Yes.
There's a family of programs. There's two programs that had a baby.
Yeah.
They had a baby program, and they're like...
a program baby.
And they're like, she shouldn't... She's gonna get deleted because she doesn't serve a purpose, but she's my daughter, and I love her. It's like, I want to know what the Wachowski sisters think a program is. I want to know, because, and this goes back to like, okay, with the machines, right? Like the squids, they're machines. Like who made them originally?
And also, it's like, who is it? Like,
I
is the
think that's
Oracle
an
a squid
Animatrix.
machine? Like, because it's
If
like...
it's an AI made, right? Yeah.
Like, who is who? What is the hierarchy of who's... And it seems like the Oracle has big fucking power in what's happening, but she seems to be completely cut off from what the machines outside with the dreads are doing. You know what I mean?
And here's the thing. So, like, in the first movie, we don't find out the Oracle is not a human until the second movie.
one.
So in the first movie, as far as we know, all of the characters, all of the named characters other than Agent Smith essentially are humans. They have a body somewhere that's either in a pod or on a ship, and they're a human, and then they're in the Matrix and they're interacting with the Matrix. And then you've got Agent Smith, who's this, rogue program that's serving a purpose and trying to fulfill that purpose. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
starting in the second movie, it starts to get a little bit like, our programs people, and there's a lot like Sarah. We find out the Oracle's a program, Seraph is a program, and the Mandalorian.
But like with Agent Smith, Merovingian.
The Merovingian.
But what's annoying about Smith, especially, is that it's like, okay, in the first movie, he's this program that's sent to destroy Neo. In the second movie, he's attached from the Matrix, and he is still a program that really wants to destroy Neo. So nothing really has changed. Well,
and I guess it's that he's more dangerous and he's able to kind of leap into the real world.
Right. That's what's supposed to be the threat, but that doesn't really get paid off until the third movie of him being in the real world.
I will say what...
Like, there's that thing of like he set off the EMP, but that's such a like background third and a half act thing that it's like, what happened with that?
Okay, so here's I think what was the big barrier for me in terms of enjoying this movie as much as maybe I might have, right? So you've got two worlds. You've got the Matrix world and you have the meat space machine, the machine world.
Right.
And in the machine world, humans are humans with physical limitations. Everything they're it's grounded in physics. Everything's real, and to me that makes it a lot more satisfying. Like for example, Bane, when Agent Smith is in Bane's body, he's as dangerous as any fit man is. Like he's dangerous. He can punch people. He can hurt people, but he's not gonna like wobble his head around and take somebody over. He's still got the limitations of a human body. And to me, that makes like the fight scenes way more interesting. I'd much rather see two actual humans punching and hitting and throwing things at each other than see like a CGI, somebody's running up on the wall and that, right? Yeah. So that's way more interesting. But the other side of that though, is the Matrix sequences are just way more visually interesting generally because they have so much going on. The stuff in Zion and on the ships is so I feel like this is gonna make
and gray.
Well, and I feel like this is gonna make me sound like such a like smooth brain. I need more color. I need more stuff going on. Like it's
you've got the Matrix where everything is green. It's just green. Everything is just green.
But compared to like,
at least
everything in Zion and the machine world is like just this monochromatic gray. And also it's not just like the literal color palette, but like the way that people talk and behave is generally like all these characters, all these like, and I get it's like there's military bearing, but there's a sameness, right? And so I feel like,
where it becomes like, why did we need this many people?
It's ironically inhuman.
Yeah, when there's like six people behind that white-haired, like, brash captain with the perma frown, you know, it's kind of like, who were all of those guys? Were we supposed to care about who those were?
Yeah.
You know, but then there will be moments where, like, the little guy, little guy who got saved by Matrix, saved by Neo. Yeah, where I like, oh, I like that this guy got a bit of a story. I wish we were following him more. Oh, the two women who, you know, are clearly kind of coded lesbian, and, you know, of course, you got to bury the gays in the third act with the one cool chick who was just like, why is this girl not a bigger part of the story? Like, remember the bald-headed chick?
Yeah. I know, right?
They were
like,
so cool. I was like, why have we not seen them earlier in this film? Like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and some of that may have just been it was 2003.
But it felt like such a Independence Day, like, this felt like this should have been a cast of thousands, but it felt like a, here's a cast of, by the way, here's them over there. Oh, yeah, right, here's them over there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and so for me, like, if we had the visual interest of the Matrix setting with the groundedness of the stuff that's outside the Matrix, I feel like I would have been engaged throughout a lot more of it. And I'm going to go ahead and front load my complaints because I have two more little nitpicky complaints and I will get that out of the way and then I will stop bitching. Okay, so first of all, so the Oracle, obviously the original actress who played the Oracle died and they cast another actress. And the thing is, they cast another actress who is the same type. Like if you like, she could have originally played the role, right? Same type, but very obviously a different person. And I feel like that kind of thing takes me out of it so much because it's so obvious that the actress just died and so they scrambled. And so they cast another actress who's a similar type and then they throw in a line about, oh, she has a new form or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, no, like have her be a 20-year-old Asian dude. Like have her be a totally different person.
Like it should have been Saram. That should have been like the new
instead it just
it feels just a duplicate anyway. Do you need Oracle and Saram?
Well, but I was gonna say, it just feels like the Oracle was kind of. It feels like the Oracle was just like playing with the character creation settings and like slightly adjusting her features. It's like, why would she do that?
I didn't mind it working as a like in-universe plot thing, but it's like, yeah, I understand the criticism where it's like, if you could become anything, why would you kind of go back to something that you've already been, which I guess is weirdly echoing of basically the entire plot of the fourth Matrix.
Well, it took me out because it felt like a production patch. It was so obvious and oops, we lost the elderly actress we had. We'd better cast another one. Like, and so it killed my suspension of disbelief around that.
And I guess for me, it had the opposite effect where I'm like, oh, I appreciate, it's like, this is one of the few times you can actually kind of work it into the narrative and have it make sense, but I can also easily see how someone could see it as like contrived. So it's like, for me, it worked narratively because it's like, there are different matrices. So like this is the sixth Neo. So for a program to basically be, I guess in a sense, deleted and then brought back with the same capabilities but with like a different coat, I can believe that for a like I can suspend my disbelief long enough because it's like, oh, it's an in-universe reason. It's like they didn't have to. They could easily just say, oh, it's the same lady.
Hey, I just thought about something. Seraph isn't in the first movie.
No,
they don't need him to shepherd them to her. Again, doesn't it feel like there's just like a redundancy of more characters just because to have more characters? Like, you know, and then that's why it feels frustrating.
I mean, Seraph is cool at least. He's cool. There's a lot of characters who are not that cool.
He doesn't do anything. Like, remember the scene where he's like, I beat you last time, Smith. And it's like, but this time it's a little different. It's like, okay, so are you going to try, Seraph? Oh, no, you just lose in the scene, and it was just waste
of too much of me.
And then, wait a minute, like, why is this an abandoned building? Like, does anyone live in the Matrix anymore? Like, what's happening? Like, you know, like, did he assimilate everyone in the building, and that's why there's all those people? Because remember, they're, like, walking through the scene, and they're leaving the Oracle and, like, you know, going out with the Sati, the little Indian girl, and it's kind of like all right, he's about to take her, and then, oh, they can't take the elevator. Oh, no, the Smiths are coming up the stairs, and, oh, wow, they're really screwed, and what are they going to do? Oh, I guess they just get to say, oh, shit, okay, I guess they're just dead. It's like, fuck. But then, the way this movie ends, ooh, it's infuriating. Let's just start from the beginning.
Wait, one more. Okay, I've got one more complaint I'm going to get out of the way, and this, I fully admit, this is totally subjective. Please feel free to tell me I'm full of shit, but the space fight battle scenes were so boring
weightless
and dorky to me because
when they're just in the air
because we're going back and forth. Well, like I said, this is totally subjective, but for me it's like we're going back and forth between CGI cartoon space fights, which CGI action sequences, especially with vehicles, are so freaking boring to me. Like I always think about like Mad Max Fury Road and how cool that was with the practical effects. Obviously you can't do that with spaceships, but nonetheless, I just find the CGI thing boring. And then cutting to, I'm sorry, but to me, the people piloting inside looked so dorky.
Oh, so and Star Trek.
And it just felt to me like, oh, they're trying to make gamers feel cool. Like, you know, so I fully welcome the hate for saying that. Like, but that was,
forget the ship stuff. Okay. What looked the worst to me was the goddamn mech suits where they're just open
why
wide
were they all naked out there? Why were they just
them
like
not having a windscreen was definitely a major flaw.
They looked like toddlers in a bouncy, like one of those bouncy things that you stick a baby in.
It's like,
they're like, why are they just like flailing around completely vulnerable? It's like, yeah, of course you're gonna get shot, you doofus. Like,
it's like what is it? The TARDISes or no, not the TARDIS. The Doctor Who things that are exterminate.
The
Daleks. They had it right. You completely surround yourself with something. You know what I'm saying? Where you can't attack. What is their problem? Like you've got these, machines are attacking you, and you're just standing up there.
How did everybody
I guess they didn't have the technology for glass. That's a running theme in the movies. They don't have glass anywhere.
And the machines don't seem to have cameras. It's so infuriating. But let's get to the
all right. So anyway, well, that was all my complaints out of the way, and now we'll have a better attitude for the rest of that.
No, it's like, and I'm not gonna invalidate your opinion on it. It's just like a weird camp because I've always I grew up with The Matrix. I watched it when I was like 5 or 6, and like I think I've seen Reloaded the most. I don't know how. Matrix and Matrix Reloaded definitely in hindsight were some awakenings, but it's like I'm in that weird camp where I like the dude bro part of my brain is like, yeah, kung fu action things, but it's like, oh, but there's like more deeper explorative narratives about like suppression and thematic thing, and like this was definitely the most blatant, and that's definitely we can something explore. But at the same time, I kind of defend it from people that try to dude bro too much, like the Matrix should just be fighting and there should be no themes in here. It's like, no, stupid. It's always been thematic. It just like it got too big for its britches.
That's what I mean. I think there's only so much
Yeah.
that like a big box action movie can do in so much time, and I think it got away from them what they could actually do with the limitation of a movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right, like, because I'm certainly
No.
not saying like don't give me any themes or philosophy,
Right.
but it's like when he's talking to the daddy program. And he's like, "Oh, did you not know that a program could experience love or whatever?" And it's just like, can we not? Can we not? Like,
Oh, I like that little bit where it's just like, "What? Love is just a word. It's just about the
know.
connection that the word implies."
I
like that. I like
have-
the Indian dude at the beginning. I think he's written.
I mean, I
think he's charismatic.
he was charismatic.
Yeah.
He was charismatic. I liked the actor, but like, I don't know. I have a strong allergy toward anything that smacks of I'm 14 and this is deep.
Right. No,
and
that's
that's kind
definitely
of
this
what
movie.
it was hitting me as, you know?
No, that's fair. I think one of the unfortunate aspects is as blockbusters have taken over in the better part of the last 15 years, this movie does not age particularly well comparatively in that context. So it's like me watching the fight scenes near the tail end. One thing I have to give this movie credit for, I'm sorry, and it made me so fucking happy. It just let a scene play out. I am so sick and goddamn tired of beginning a fight, and it's like, well, let's cut away to something else. I'm like, look, they showed the full like the fight scene with the mechs happened, and it just happened, and then
That
we'll
is
go and be
true.
like, hey, here's Neo fighting Smith, and you know what? It didn't cut away before the impact of the punch. They just fucking punched each other and fought. I didn't care if it was in the sky. I know they made the CGI in the dark to cover it up because it was like 2007 effects, and it didn't look amazing. But I'm like, God damn it, they lit it enough where I can follow what's going on. They actually let them hit each other in the face. They let their stuntmen do their goddamn jobs and show the cool choreography. And I can't fault them for that.
No, you're absolutely right. And like, I'm just spoiled because like, I'm like, well, I would have liked more. I would have actually liked, but no, you're right. Especially compared to the action movies that followed over the next decade and a half.
Yeah, well, oh
decades.
my God, I'm so sick.
absolutely.
And let me just say that as well. I'm so sick
Cut
of,
to
that
some
sort of,
other
right
action.
before I punched you, we cut to the next thing, and we're behind it.
And it's bothered me.
It's
And
like,
then
oh,
seeing
come
it here
on, let me
was
see
a
the
weird
impact.
breath of fresh air. I'm just like, oh, they like fight and they show the full sequel. Like they're just swinging on each other, and then it ascends to the air. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen air combat in a while. Like, yeah, it kind of looks a little high school theater Dragon Ball Z, but I give him credit.
Yeah, my problem with all air combat is that, like, I'm about to punch you back into the air, and then I'm going to punch you back into the air. It's like, after a while, it feels weightless.
It's a little
like,
hard to
what does
kind
it
of
matter? What
apply
stakes matter?
those
Like,
physics,
yeah.
but I give him credit where credit is due. I'm like, oh, that's the anime influence.
Yeah.
Like it's like things like that. I'm just like, because I'm thinking about, I'm watching this fight in the air. I'm like, oh, that's Dragon Ball Z, where it's like they kind of don't have a weight to them in like anime, and I think that's the thing that's like, okay, you can see the inspiration, but it maybe doesn't translate for a lot of people. It's like, why do they look so weightless and bouncy? It's like, well, if your influence is animation, and they just like, Cell and Goku fighting in the air, they don't move out of one spot, and they just teleport in this just to different locations. It looks cool in 2D, but in 3D you're like, there's no impact there.
So we're 25 minutes in. We haven't even gotten to the plot. We got but it was so funny. It's like there's a part that I want to mention at the beginning where it's like, do you remember the very first thing that happens in this movie? It starts with the huge logo of the little, like, one of the Matrix symbol things where it's like, and it's like, but it explodes, and then you see the orange explosion happen, and it like reverses, and you hear the music reverse backwards, ultimately for it just to pull out to just be one of the smaller symbols that it's like doing the Matrix things back to, like where it's just like, oh, it looks like we're about to go into a city, but then actually that city is just inside of one of the smaller things. Is that some sort of symbolism for what the movie could be about? Stay tuned, listeners.
Let's see where
We got
things
very
go.
excited, yeah. Like, DJ was over here for the first half hour that I watched this, and he was like, watch this, watch this, watch this.
I was just like, they really started the movie like this.
Yeah.
They really did that. And again, it's one of those, man, if they did it well, that would have been such a, oh, hey, a little like callback to the, you know what I'm saying, the echo of the story, you know, but whatever. So we pick up where the last movie ended. Neo and Bane are across from each other, but I feel like they end up like getting away from each other ultimately, right? Because they take him into another room, don't they?
Yeah, it's a setup where the payoff is he is moved. It's like, oh man, is Smith's and Bane? Is he gonna get inside Neo? Foreshadow. Okay, there he goes on another table. Okay, all right.
And meanwhile, Neo is trapped in the Matrix, but like not in the Matrix. He's trapped in a.
He's in
train
the hallway
station.
of the Matrix,
Yeah.
a space between spaces,
Essentially, and now
the Matrix lobby.
This is the perfect example of the I like a bit of the dialogue and sort of like the, oh hey, it's making you think about like, you know, what does a word mean versus what it really like does, you know what I'm saying, the intention or the, you know, the meaning of the word, yeah, whatever, the letter of the law versus the spirit of a word or whatever. But you know, and then of course immediately we have after that like, oh, I love my daughter and I love my wife and I have to look at you, Neo, and say you are totally in love, even though there's nothing on your face at all that would symbolize that your face
They
changed.
keep looking at him and Trinity.
Hey, audience,
looking
they're
complete-
totally in love.
Like, I love people keep looking at Neo and Trinity and saying, you're in love with somebody while they have the most stone face.
Like, here's
You
the
are
thing.
in love with somebody, are you not? Lover.
If they would have at least, because there was all it would have taken is a simple direction of being like, oh, he just mentions love, and that's what I feel about this. At least having Keanu Reeves like slightly look over to the left or something, just like some indication of, oh, I just
Give
had a
him
thought
a laser.
change.
You have to give him a laser pointer.
Okay, so I gotta talk about Keanu for a second.
I'm sorry. That was so mean. I'm just like, give a laser pointer. Like when you want a cat to
Like a
nod up
dog,
and
yeah.
down. And
Keanu like a cat. Just it's like over here, buddy. Over here. There we go. There. So okay, I gotta talk about Keanu because I've had this opinion for a long time, and it
Okay.
is somebody that's a huge cyberpunk fan, like for the game, who had to be exposed to this man for hundreds of hours, literally. Keanu is in a particular class of actor where only certain roles work for him, and I have a lot of gripes with him.
He can't be a vampire in
No.
1890s Victorian England. He can't do that.
I have a lot of gripes with his performance in Cyberpunk, despite the fact people were. I thought I was like on drugs, where everyone's like, "Oh, I loved it," and so it's like but it's so weird because here he's like perfect because the dialogue for everyone is in that same stilted kind of limited range, and so I'm watching it, and it's like you have to know how to play to an actor's talents, but if your
That's
lead actor
exactly
has
what I think as well. Yeah,
if your lead
yeah.
actor has a limited range, now everybody performing around them outside of Hugo Weaving, who was just
Oh, wow.
explosive.
Chewing the scenery and love it in every second.
And I loved it. It was so damn good. But it's like such an antithesis, so it stands out because he's so muted. It's like, whoa, wow, oh, well, I'm,
Actually, it is
That's
kind
a
of crazy.
great Keanu,
Yeah,
man.
it is kind of crazy to think of Keanu, the representation of humanity, is like looks lifeless as fuck. Meanwhile, Smith, the robot, is like, I'm alive.
Message.
He's genuinely
Message.
when he takes his sunglasses off in the Oracle's apartment, like genuinely
Like,
terrifying.
there is somewhere
He's
between-
gonna bite somebody in the
Manic.
face.
There is somewhere between this movie and what is it? The Blade Runner movie about robots becoming sentient, where we can have the intensity and actual coolness of, like, you know what I'm saying, the fight scenes of what Agent Smith is doing, but maybe at least trying with the, you know what I'm saying, like with Blade Runner trying to give depth and humanity to the character, even though it still kind of reads a little bit like nonsense when you look back at it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they at least were trying to do, like, hey, let's actually give... Because, like, I feel like this movie doesn't grapple with it at all. Agent Smith is supposed to be in some way kind of human, and he clearly is acting human, but they don't, like, really grapple with that, like, narratively, where it's just like...
It's something that very much grows and evolves thematically with him kind of obsessing over the intricacies of humanity while simultaneously partaking in exactly that.
Yeah, but it's like he never has like a realization moment. Like it just never comes to anything.
Which I guess that's kind of his purpose as Neo's. It's weird. They have parallels. I mean, it's the point at the climax, but it's like they have parallels with one another, but in the weirdest ways.
Something with that, but it never.
It doesn't come to completion because the narrative has a greater theme about fate, and it's a major religious allegory. So it kind of like falls under its own weight of being overly thematic. of multiple things. So it's like, oh, the machine is more human than the human who's participating in fighting against the machine, but the human has the heart, but the machine develops a soul without knowing he has a soul, but the soul is made of the negative of humanity.
And that would have been great. That would have been great if like Neo looked at him and said, like, all this whole time, you know, you having motivation, you wanting to attack me, like, you are human. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe if like that was the moment of just like,
it's like you're just as human
what are you
as
talking
me.
about? Yeah, that would have been the narrative completion of like the what are you talking about? It's like, I'm not human. It's like, well, being human is just a word. Like, we tie it back into the beginning of the,
god damn it. Like, it needed one line. It literally needed one line versus what the Oracle version says, just like, you'll know when the time is right, Neo. It's like,
oh my god.
If that was the line that popped up, then that would have been it.
Right. But okay, so Neo needs to get out of the Matrix, but he's stuck in this in-between transitional place.
Yeah.
But the program's daughter, they're trying to sneak her into the Matrix. Yes?
Yes.
Because
she's about to be deleted?
Yeah, but she's about to be deleted in the Matrix?
Yeah,
or are they in this in-between space?
Well, and that was confusing because then they all get on the train to go into the Matrix, but then the parents say they can't stay in the Matrix.
Yeah.
And clearly the little girl who is a program can't, like...
She can't leave.
She can't leave because unless they're gonna, like, grow a meat suit for her and inject her into it. Like, what...
Just gonna steal somebody's body? Like,
I mean, Smith was able to do it.
Yeah, but like presumably they're not gonna like kill some little girl's consciousness to give Satya a body.
Yeah, so it begs it begs the question, because you just assume there's only two worlds: the Matrix world and then the real world, which we know is where the machines are like attacking Zion. And so it becomes a thing of, oh, there's a middle place. And it's like, oh, but it's that train station, right? And it's like, well, no, it's kind of where they are. So it's like, wait, is there like is in the Truman Show of the Matrix, is there like this extra place, where Christoph or whoever the hell, the guy who is in control of the whole thing, like is there that place like that looks like the sky, but it's actually the control tower? Is that what they're talking about? But like, so the programs can't stay in there, but they're going into the Matrix. But here's the thing that keeps rubbing up against everything. It's like, do these machines not have cameras for eyes where they can see inside of the Matrix and see things? How are these people able to hide in the Matrix so much? Like, what's going on?
I think the Smiths are functionally the like gateways and sentinels of the Matrix. So they are kind of the eyes for it. But if you're
their eyes have to walk to each individual place. They can't like look above it, just like homeboy from Tybalt from Romeo and Juliet is able to look and oversee things.
I didn't say it was
not
smart.
Have cameras? I just don't understand.
Your system is flawed.
Arguably, if you have like a giant code base and you're looking for something and you don't know what exact thing to search for, so you have to just look at every function.
Oh, is that what you're literalizing it?
Like that, I guess. But also, can we just talk about Train Man for a second? He was scary as fuck.
Oh man, out of nowhere over there. Look at this scary shit.
If you're somebody who takes public transit a lot, Train Man hit.
And the thing about it is, he wasn't in the front of the train. He was just like sitting there, so he looked like a hobo at first. And I was like, oh, that's the train man.
He's like, who's that? Oh, that's the mind you, not the conductor, the train man.
Yeah,
the man of trains.
But it just kind of threw me off when it's like, wait, Satya is trying to get into the Matrix so she can not be seen by the. But it just seems like isn't that where they would find you the most? I don't like that's their world, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
I don't get it.
I mean, it's it's.
I guess they're not omniscient. Like they're not perfectly omniscient. Which, if you think of the Matrix as being something that's sort of self-generating and and it's vast and complex. Like, even, I mean, just like, again, like, I'm thinking about what actual code bases are like. Even a pretty simple, like, if you've got just a bunch of JavaScript files, like, you can't necessarily, you're not going to instantly know everything.
But these are robots, aren't they? Right?
Yeah,
wouldn't they be the most efficient machines 700 years or whatever into the future, being able to click, go through everything? You know what I'm saying?
I think the purpose I think the purpose for the Matrix was to be self-sustaining without constant oversight, and the machines them. So it's like it keeps the humans docile. It's not really.
And maybe the idea is that, like, the humans not coming over here if they get within 1,000 feet. We're getting them anyway.
Like
that sort of deal.
The whole this is me remembering the Animatrix. The whole thing sprung about was because, like, a machine got put on trial, and they didn't try it as a being with autonomy, and so the robots, like, separated themselves from the better part of humanity. Humanity got pissed, and that's how the war started, because they launched nukes at him, and the robot said, "Oh, well, go fuck yourself." And so functionally, the robots just kind of want to maintain their own sense of, like, autonomy, I would think.
But they are doing it through enslaving humanity.
Well, yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Like, yes, the robo-fascists inevitably happened, because humanity was doing what humans do. So it's not like it's out of nowhere, but it's like...
Oh, sure. It's definitely... these robots are out for some revenge. That is for sure. This is revenge juicing these humans. Well, actually, that becomes the question now.
Well, it's half revenge, because it's like, well, we can also use them as batteries, and they're out of the way.
Right. So here's the question, okay? Is the only reason the Oracle can see the future is because she's just experienced these things similar times? So she's not, like, really pre-seeing the future as much as she's just kind of reminding people passively of what they need to do to get to where they need to go? Because I was like, because that changes, you know, when you think about a movie through one character's perspective, like, well, we don't follow them the whole time, but they are still existing, right? So what are they doing? And it just feels like the Oracle, as frustrating as it is to listen to her talk, there's a certain level of it where it's just like, hey, you're not actually seeing the future, you're just... And then that makes me skirt again to be like, are we all just your fucking pawns and playthings? Like, wait a minute, Oracle?
Well, to be fair, like, Neo is, like, the sixth one. So it is straight up. It's like,
but it kind of makes the first movie kind of feel like you're playing me for a sap. Like, I care about you so much. Yeah, right. Sixth one. Anyways, like, there's gonna be a next one. Like,
yeah, it's kind of a case of it, and there was, and then it was two. But, like, it's not the first time the Matrix has run its course. So it would kind of make sense that it's essentially... She's not as much predicting as she is pattern recognizing.
But what I think what she is trying to do is trying to skew things ultimately towards peace.
Yes.
Right? Where it's like, what iteration can we... She's basically doing the Doctor Strange thing of, like, how many times... Like, what is the factors that have to happen that make it so that things equate to peace among worlds?
It's a stat-based war of attrition.
Right.
It's a war of attrition rooted in binary code, where it's like, eventually, if we run this simulation enough times, it'll get to peace statistically at some point. It's just it took them about 6 tries. Over like 200 years.
See, that's the thing. Like, I almost get myself to liking this movie when I think about what's going on. It's like, this is some bigger heady stuff. I like how they're kind of playing with, like, narrative and meta-narrative in certain ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then they get to the Merovingian sex club, where there's, like...
said without an ounce of hesitation. So then they go to the Merovingians French latex BDSM sex club.
Oh my
with the
goodness.
DJ has a literal fetish gasp. It's like, cut the music. And just...
How is this man even able to see the music with...
I have no idea.
I mean, able to see the program and shit. And it's like, what I love is like, there's one part where, they go into the club and you see 2 figures step out. And it's one of those things where, like, it's 2004, 2005. So there's one woman that you can clearly see as a woman, but another person, it's obscured just enough where if you look down at your popcorn at the right time, you could have missed that was actually a woman too. So it's kind of, you know what I'm saying? They have the fight scene with the 3 bald dudes, which actually, like, looks pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? I like how they're able to get in.
I just loved...
Oh,
I just
yeah.
love, like, what did he say? Like, you'll get in over my big dead ass. It's like, I love that he's just got to stop and let you know he's thick.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got to make sure everybody knows.
He's a chungus. But there's a quick line about how, like, whoa, Seraph, you don't have your wings. What the fuck? And I'm like, did
he ever? We never saw him with wings.
But it's like, does that matter, like, as a thing? You know, that, like, oh.
What does it mean? I feel like maybe if you asked the Wachowskis, or at least if you had asked them back then, and maybe they've forgotten.
There was a plot point.
They would have been like, oh, you know, yeah, there was actually a thing about how he had wings, and then this and that. But yeah, it did.
Because I was just like, what difference does that make? I just didn't. Yeah. But, So they go into the second level where the woman is like in green is like, can I take your coat? Oh fuck!
I loved Coat Check Girl. Get out of there, Coat Check Girl. Save yourself.
Like, know your limitations, sis. You are now is not the time.
But, thank God that those elevator doors were strong as fuck, so she didn't get shot through the as they were shooting back. But what's so funny, like. So this fight scene kind of felt like, in a small way, they were like upending the things that they were doing before in the first and second movie. Because it's like, there's literally one scene where one guy goes, oh, I'm shooting at you and now I'm out of ammo and I'm going to do a bunch of stupid like backflips that are like really obvious backflips. And then he just gets shot to shit like before the third backflip. And it's like, yeah, that should have been happening. I feel like I've seen a lot of people backflipping in this movie so far. And they really should have been. Like, your center of gravity is like, oh no, you can't catch me because only the middle part is like, yeah, but I can just shoot you.
This
like,
definitely was probably the fight scene I thought was the weakest, because it has a really creative idea of like, oh, what if they flip to the ceilings like Spider-Man? But it's like, I mean, you're still a big barrel-chested man with guns. It's like you've just made it slightly more inconvenient to shoot you. I just shoot up instead of forward.
It doesn't amount to that much.
Physics are still a thing, my boy. Like, all I gotta do is point
it doesn't
up.
ultimately matter.
It's like
like the ghost dudes mattered in the second movie more because it's like, oh, that's actually playing with physics. They can move through stuff.
Oh man,
how's that gonna play
they're gonna
out?
phase versus like, haha, no, I'm on the ceiling. Oh, let me just tilt.
We didn't really get any novel bad guys.
I mean, I guess if you like sex club villains. And look,
those poor fetishists didn't sign up for this. This wasn't the type of masochism they asked for.
They're just dancing around in latex. They didn't do anything wrong.
They were just freaky. You know, nobody is like, hey man, we wanted abuse, but not like this. Like, relax.
They were living their lives in 2005.
I wanted my ass beat, but not like with bullets.
I did not consent to bullet play. Like, what?
Safe word. What was the safe? Shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Broccoli. It was broccoli.
So they walk into a club, and with just the least tact possible. Because I was thinking, they start walking in, and they just like form a phalanx and just point guns at everyone and just like walk around in a triangle. And it's like, way to be conspicuous, Marty. Like, what the fuck? Like, and you know what's funny? Everyone is so like in a dazed fucking sex orgy. They probably could have just walked up to him. Like, who was paying attention to some other guys?
Right, like those dancers were not like the people partying were not gonna stop and like waylay them.
Exactly.
It's like they were like, don't touch me with that rubber, don't touch me with that, get masked.
Look, they're in a sex club, they know about consent, no one's gonna mess with you, you know what I'm saying, if you don't want to be messed with. And this is the weird like contradictory thing that is kind of interesting in terms of like text versus like the people making the text, right? Because it's like, clearly this movie is made by, you know what I'm saying, people of the time who know about sex clubs and aren't like demonized, like they would not actively be demonizing it or anything like that, but it specifically feels like it's demonizing sex clubs, because I could easily imagine being like a 13-year-old kid watching this movie and like, oh, you know, those are the bad guys' place because they're wearing sex gear, like, you know what I'm saying, like, it's just saying that, like,
the
I think it's
ironic,
also one of those,
like, Christian fundamentalism of the Matrix.
Right,
3.
like, well, look at the spiky hair and how they're in the bad guy's lair. I mean, sex club stuff equals bad guy, right? Like,
and I think they probably knew what they could and couldn't get away with back then, but it's like, you know, it's a visual of... I mean, because the Merovingian, the last time we see him...
He's in a restaurant.
He's in a nice, fancy restaurant, right? And so wherever he... Like, if we think of it that way, if we compare it, like, we're seeing him in these fancy places.
Well, it could all be the same building, because in the first movie, they said, like, this restaurant is on the 30th floor of this building. And
maybe
this
but,
is another
you know,
floor.
but we're
The elite are having
seeing him
sex parties.
We're seeing him in fancy places where you go and spend lots of money to enjoy yourself. You know, whether that's a restaurant or an S&M club. And so if you think of it that way, you could say that probably from the Wachowskis' point of view, they weren't demonizing the sex club any more than they were demonizing nice restaurants.
Right.
It's just he's a fancy, rich, bad guy, and he goes to fancy pleasure palaces. I don't know.
What I love is that when you see Merovingian, he turns and in his French accent, he's like, what in the hell? And seeing them like aiming the guns. And honestly, I was kind of right there with them. It's like, dude, you're killing the vibe. What's going on? We're all having a good time. There's champagne and titties out. Like, come on, bro. It ain't gotta be like this.
What did you pointed out with like he had trouble eating the olive?
He like bites. It looks like he's about to bite into the whole thing, but then he only bites into like 3/4 of it. And it's like, what happened?
I love a good villain eating as business while they're being threatening.
It's conducted. Yeah.
You know?
So, which, like, of all the villainous things he does, him eating olives whole is probably the most devious shit for a French person to do.
Well, almost whole. Like, yeah. But so that's what it was. Literally, Seraph, when they're like doing the phalanx of guns, he like bops a woman in the face accidentally, and it so looks like that wasn't intended. But it's just like,
bonk,
yeah, these guys are just. Yeah, exactly.
No,
please. It's like, why is this got to be why is she being treated like a villain assistant? Maybe she's got an exhibition kink. Like, goddamn. and so Merovingian says, like, I don't think you have enough bullets, to take everyone out. And I'm like, yeah, I would imagine so, actually. Like, they really wouldn't. Like, you see how many people are in there? Like, they would be overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Like, with only 3 of them. So Seraph says, we only want to talk. And Merovingian's like, put down the guns and we will talk, And so it's one of those like, are they going to have to, you know what I'm saying? They're outnumbered, outmanned, outfoxed. What are they going to do? Oh, they give up the guns. Okay, I guess we're giving up the guns. Dang, we got to do what the villain says. All right, they're walking up to the villain. At any moment, you know what I'm saying? Guns are on them. They make one false move, you know what I'm saying? Heads roll, So he says, all right, I guess we're at your mercy. What do you want? And he says, I'm the Frenchman, Merovingian. Give me the eyes of the
Which that moment was so weird, and it felt like very fairy tale and like,
are we really going here?
You want her eyeballs?
Like,
first of all, even if she was like just an actual human old lady, that gross. But also she's a program. Like you want to go up and like stick your thumbs in her eyeballs and like pull out program eyeballs that are made of code. I don't know. I think I'm just too literal minded for this. I'm like, but you said they're programs. Like, what language are they in? Is this Python? Like, what's happening? Like, I feel like I'm just like
you bring it up to me in terms of like coders who have watched this movie for years. And it's like we're supposed to like this movie because it's about technology.
I feel like I am just not. I feel like I have a block around buying into the conception of what the beings in the Matrix are because I'm trying to figure it out on a technical level that just doesn't exist.
But here's how it's going. Carry on Mouse. Oh man, they're all dead to rights. What are they going to do? Hundreds of thousands of guns are aimed at their fucking heads like a goddamn cartoon. What do? Well, she has more than enough time to say, to hell with this. Then she's able to kick 3 guys to her right and then kick 3 guys to her left. And then Morpheus is able to look at that and go, well, I guess it's time for me to kick 3 guys to my right and kick 3 guys. And then Seraph is like, well, I guess it's time for me to kick 3 guys to my left and kick 3 guys to my right. And no one's actually shooting or anything like that. Everyone's just allowing these people to lift up their legs to kick 3 guys to the right. They have enough time to do. They have enough time for her to say, to hell with this. I'm lifting up my leg to kick 3 guys to the right and kick 3 guys to the left. Oh, now no one shoot yet. No one shoot just yet. Oh no, I'm able to grab my gun that was thrown up into the air. And now that I'm aiming at Merovingian, now everyone's pulling out their guns at the right time. And now everyone's aimed at each other. And now it's, oh no, everything was in your favor a second ago, but then movie bullshit. And now things are in my favor now. I hate that,
It's the action equivalent of like when somebody on TV or in a movie is like giving somebody a righteous dressing down and they deliver like a 2-minute monologue about how they suck or whatever. And the person just stands there pouting. And it's like in real life, when you see somebody start in, the other person just starts shouting at them. Like it doesn't work like that.
It's like, if you don't just air this bitch out right now, Instead
Right.
of all this yapping, whole lot of yapping going on.
Carrie Ann Moss aims the gun at Merovingian, and she's like, "What's it gonna be, Marv?" You know, I love that nickname that they gave
Marv. That had me in hysterics.
Just taking all the respect out of his name.
It's like, what's gonna be Marv? I'm like, oh, it's like that.
The thing that I hated is, it's like, all right, the gun's aimed at your head, and then she is able to cock the trigger back in the little thing in the back. I'm like, okay. Is anyone going to shoot anybody?
Yeah, the fact that the gun wasn't cocked.
Okay, so I have a question about that, and I wasn't gonna bring it up because I don't want to like show my ignorance here. Like I used to do like rifle, like target shooting with a rifle when I was younger, but I don't have a lot of experience with handguns. But it always seemed weird to me. I mean, frankly, you see this with handguns and shotguns also, I think, on TV or in movies, and somebody would be like, aiming a gun at somebody, threatening them, and then they cock it and keep talking. It's like, you weren't ready to, like, you have to.
That didn't seem that
what's
smart,
going
buddy.
on there? Right. Like, I just feel like,
just for that visual
why are you
cue in the movie.
Yeah, and I feel like
now they're serious.
There must have been, and it was probably some movie from the 30s or something. There must have been a first time that happened on screen, and then people were just like, "That looks
That's just
cool,"
the thing you do,
and wrote it in without actually thinking it through.
And then, but this is what I hate about, like, you know, in movies, we talked about this, how in the first Matrix movies, like, oh, there's little, like, moments that happen where it's like, ooh, the movie's got a little jank to it. Like, it doesn't go exactly how you remember. There's a little bit of a, like, whoa, how did that happen? Oh, yeah, because he got shot in this specific area, so he moved this way and it caused this. Like, that's what I was looking for in the scene. Like, oh, what's the actual thing that turns the tide in battle where she, like, dipped low, slipped somewhere, did something, moved with him. But no, like, there's nothing that you can actually communicably see that shows the tide being turned in battle. It's just kind of like, well, everything was against her, and then she just kind of made it so everything was against him now. You know, it's like there's no actual, oh, what a clever bit that she did. She just went, fuck this, I'm just barreling through and doing it. Like, it kind of reminded me, it would be like if in, it's like, it would be like, you know, remember when Spidey, you know what I'm saying, the first Spider-Man movie where it's like, oh, choose the girl or the train cars, you know, if he just aimed a gun at Green Goblin and said, no, put them both down right now, you know, and it's just like, well, there's no, you know what I mean?
Stakes
like,
kind of change a little bit when the strap comes out.
Yeah, exactly, but it was just like, okay, well, there's no ingenuity that has to happen. It was just kind of like, well, you had me dead to rights, but now I just have you dead to rights. Like, there was no momentary flip that you could look at and be like, oh, the genius of the Wachowskis, look how they flipped the scene in that way of like, oh, she paid attention to what someone was doing, or Monica Bellucci maybe helped her. Hey, look, can we mention that real quick? Monica Bellucci's just back with the Merovingians.
Yeah, she's there. It's like, I thought they were done. Like, after what she pulled the second one, like, she seemed to hate his guts. She seemed to hate his guts, and then she's just like sitting there very docilely next to him, like, where are you gonna leave him?
I almost thought she wasn't the same person. Like, and then like, oh, did he get like a clone of her or something like that? Where it's just like, oh, it's a similar thing.
I mean, maybe.
No, she does the lame line of like, she is in love. I see it behind your glasses.
Yeah.
I see it behind your dark sunglasses in this club.
The dark sunglasses they all wear inside in dark rooms at night.
But yeah, that just annoyed me.
Oh, what? When we were watching this, and he goes, "Where my tiny sunglasses?"
Yeah, but yeah. So, what was it? Yeah, she says, "I don't have time for this shit." Yeah. Everyone
I'm
gives
impatient
just
now.
enough ample time. And then never mind. Yeah. That's what I don't like too. There's the setup of, oh shit, you have to bring the Oracle's eyes. Oh no. What are you gonna do? Like, it just feels like there's a setup attention, and then it just immediately gets subverted. And I feel like that happens like a lot of this movie, where it's like they set up something interesting, and then it's like the way it pays off is like, really? That's how you paid it off?
Did anything actually come of their encounter with the Merovingians?
So this is what happens. Yeah, she aims the gun at him, and he says, "Yeah." They're like, "All right, are you gonna?" Because the idea is, I'm aiming the gun at you, Merovingian. Now, so now it's we're either all gonna die here when I pull the trigger, or you let me get him because I'm so in love. And Monica Bellucci's like, "Don't you see the love? She's willing to kill everyone here just because of love."
Right,
that's
but
the idea.
I forgot that this was primarily. I forgot that he let Neo out of the train station, and that's what it was. This is why. Like, and I will, I'm not blaming the movie entirely for this. Like, I had trouble focusing on it for whatever reason, but I felt like there were a lot, the pacing felt weird to me because there was a lot of stuff happening that felt like a climax that was happening too soon. And then it was like, I don't know, or things got kind of paid off in a weird anticlimactic way. I don't know. So I had trouble remembering. It was like, wait, why did they go to the Merovingian? Oh, right, because they had let Neo out of the train station. Why was he in the train station? And he was only in there for like a second.
What got him into the train station? It was the fight with... what got him into the train station?
It was the end of Reloaded.
Yeah, but what happens at the end? Why would he have been there in the first place?
Because of the fight with the Smiths, right?
Yeah.
What happened at the end of the fight with the Smiths?
Wasn't he knocked out?
Well, he was, because they had him on the table and then they plug him into the Matrix.
Oh, it was, didn't he like use up all his powers to bring Trinity back to life?
Right.
That's what happened,
So he was just sort of, it felt like.
So the idea is that, it was the moment of, whoa, this guy was able to use powers in the real world? Wait a minute. And then it becomes, we'll pay off for the next movie. But he passes out, and so he passes out, and so we open the movie in this. That's what okay, that's the connecting tissue. I had to be like, so, okay, wait, what actually brings us from A to B?
A lot of this for me felt like him being in the train station and being sort of between worlds, or them saying like, you need to bring the Oracle's eyes, or a lot of this felt like something that if it weren't sci-fi, it would make more sense almost. If it's like, he's in like an anteroom to the afterlife when he's half dead. He's in like the spiritual realm.
Right.
I think that's what they were going for.
I think it is.
Like they're using the aesthetic of it.
What they were going for.
Yeah, Matrix Purgatory.
Yeah, and I think what I keep getting hung up on, and this is maybe just a me problem, but that because it's sci-fi and it's purporting to be about computers and codes and programs and machines and it's like I'm trying to make this logical technical sense of it when what it feels like is like a mystical spiritual journey, and it is kind of a mystical spiritual journey, and I can't wrap my head around trying to think about like
it doesn't try to thread the needle of it though.
Computers work.
It doesn't try to thread the needle. It just goes, you guys don't really know computers, right? So this is kind of like what you know about the spiritual afterlife or whatever. That's what it basically does.
So I think it's kind of I think what we're running into, at least, we're running into the themes in the narrative are circulating about this concept of like a ghost in the machine. How valid is the soul if it's produced in an artificial body? And like, how do you blur the lines between spirituality and technology? I don't think, given where the theme started in the first movie and where they're ending in the third, exactly have like the connective tissue that they want it to have. Like, I think on their own, each movie has really interesting themes to explore. But this third one in particular is super duper loud about its religious allegory in themes about destiny and faith and like humanity. But what it runs into trouble with is like, it's like all life is sacred, and it's like love is like, to be human is not just something to be experienced by like anatomy and things like that. And that's an interesting like philosophical exploration, but it's also a hard thing to do when you're like, okay, but the Matrix is functionally a hell for humans, but now you've put AI Jesus into purgatory for hell.
That's the other thing is I wanted to bring that up because you mentioned it, or I wanted to touch on that because you had brought it up. The religious allegories, like Neo in the first movie is kind of even though he's the one or whatever, he's very much somebody at least I can relate to. And though being the one or whatever, I don't know. Again, I read this fully as, being the one is like being in love. You know it, or like it's like being trans. Like no one can tell you if you are. You just have to figure that out yourself. And it feels very, very personal and about this sort of like whether Neo's quote unquote the one. It's really about him figuring out who he is just as a person.
Yeah.
And then the second one, he's Jesus. He's not like so. In the second one, he is is the Jesus of the, of the ministry in the Gospels. He's Jesus walking around and having people coming up to him and going, help me and save my son. He's on the ship or whatever. He's the Jesus pre-crucifixion walking around and just being a person, but being a very exceptional person. And then the third one becomes the like religious Christ narrative.
Right.
And that meshes, I don't know, and it's like, this is not me like hating on Christians or Christianity at all, but it feels like kind of a shallow, the whole like,
it's
here's
muddled.
the hero and they're gonna sacrifice themselves and save the whole world just like Jesus. It feels very generic, and I feel like if you're going to go into a Christian spiritual allegory. I mean, C.S. Lewis did it with one of the most iconic fantasy series of all times. You could do much more interesting things with that,
Yeah, it's like a case where you can do a religious theme, but I think turning your character from like an individual who basically realizes that he's the special into Jesus, into like almost sort of, it's like you turn it into Jesus and then it's Jesus fights the Antichrist and they cancel each other out for the betterment of humanity. So like the stakes get bigger, but they're a little disjointed in terms of their connection. So it's like, I'm special.
Yeah.
How special am I? Oh, you're like anointed by God special. Like that's how much people believe in you. Great. And you have to fight your own equal who's taking over hell. And, and so much so that the devil, doesn't like the supreme fascist.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like, okay, so in order to make peace with the devil, you and the extremist that came from hell have to cancel each other out, even though all this bullshit started because humans wouldn't let robots be themselves.
Yeah, it so feels like never mind that thing that happened earlier, because now let's focus on this. We've both got a third villain to fight, so let's forget about the thing that happened before. It's like, what? Like,
that's a huge thing about the narrative, actually, is the person that, so not directly, but indirectly, the group that caused the issues in the first place are the ones that are also advocating for peace, but not willing to accept the consequence of their community's greater actions.
As soon as you know more about what the humans did, it becomes like now wait a minute.
No, wait a second here. Maybe we brought this on ourselves.
The story, yeah. And so this is the thing too. Just getting back to the story directly, because it's like everything's tense and on edge in this moment. Where like Neo is like by himself and he's like, okay, you got yourself in here, you get yourself out. The camera slows in on him and you kind of start seeing a rush of machinery happen and you're like, whoa, what was that little cut? What did just happen? Is Neo doing something? Is he accessing something? Never mind that, because then they came in and they saved him. That's the thing that I remember being like, wait a minute. Yeah, they really like started something and they just didn't do anything with it. Because it was like, there was a start of a hint of the idea of what? When he closes his eyes, he's kind of seeing machines. Well, that could just mean he had a thought or he fell asleep for but anyways, it doesn't even matter. He wasn't even able to do anything that could, like if there was like at least a second, like a Donnie Darko second where he like was bending the reality for a second and being like, what? Could he do something? And then they came in and saved him. And then it was like maybe it was too hard for him to do. And then they come in and save him. And then it's like maybe he could have saved himself.
It feels very passive for the humans, like the hero / Christ figure.
Yeah, he was just rescued. He was, because he literally says, you can do this, you can do this. And it seems like a joke that he actually wasn't able to do it. And he actually did need help at that moment. Like, he literally was not going to be able to get out without that. You know what I mean?
Which I guess that's kind of the thing with Reloaded, is him realizing that his powers might have transferable properties. But I guess it's like, well, you got to believe, Mr. Anderson, like.
But also so here's something too that bugs me about the powers being transferable. The whole idea of him having superpowers in the Matrix is he's basically woken up to the fact that it's not real, it's all just code, it's all just ones and zeros.
Yeah.
And so because he realizes it's a simulation and he's not real, it's kind of like lucid dreaming. Now because he knows it's not real, he can do whatever he wants, essentially.
Exactly.
Right?
It's hacking the game.
But learning how to lucid dream doesn't give you superpowers when you're awake. And it doesn't make... And I guess, it just doesn't make sense to me that him being able to sort of mentally manipulate the Matrix would equal he's completely violating the laws of physics in the actual world.
The only
unless the theory is that it's still another matrix within a
Oh,
a simulation
God.
within a simulation. You're still on the ship, Rick Sanchez.
I,
you know, like,
I hate the fact that that's like a decent argument. The only other thing I can think of
That actually is.
like that's a feasible argument.
But then that makes me even angry at the Oracle because it's like, man, are
Bitch,
we
what
just
piece are you
fucking
preserving?
playthings? Yeah, like what's going on? Stop playing with people's emotions.
The only other explanation I can think of is essentially he does a reverse Smith. So how Smith basically turned his technology into the biology of a man by taking him over and taking over his mind. Neo kind of adopted some of the Matrix into him so he can interact with it.
And see, here's the thing: if they would have like,
I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying that's the only way I can kind of see
but I
it.
feel like there's so many things where they like do a visual hint at something, but they don't really go like, how could someone have really picked that up? You know, like with the
Yeah.
Russian machines. Oh, did that mean he was he able to manipulate reality? I don't know. How the hell was that supposed to be able to tell me that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Because that's my only way of kind of like making it make sense is essentially by alluding to the fact that Smith was able to get into a man and possess a man. So too could Neo pick up some extra shit from the Matrix that he learned in there, and they can both transfer it to real life because they're two halves of the same whole, and they're magic special white guys. Yay!
Yeah. Real quick, programming note. We are about looking at DJ's notes document. We're about halfway through the plot, and we have been recording for a little over an hour. Would we / could we take a break and resume in 10 or 15 minutes? I'm sleepy and I need to get something caffeinated to drink. If you're okay with,
Yeah, it's
are you
fine.
okay with doing that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, cool.